and all of it goes into the U.S. Treasury. So between the taxes and the forfeiture, the Treasury is making a ton of money off of this guy.
Damn. Why are they holding his book up?
Pre-publication review is a messed up process. Okay, I've done it with other clients. And, he's right. Anybody who has signed one of these agreements has to have their book submitted. Now, if it's a cookbook, nobody's going to really, throw a fit over it. Some guys do actually, are that careful with it. And for him, I would definitely be that careful with it. If he was going to write a cookbook, he should submit it. What happens is it goes to the main office at DOW, Department of War, that does a pre-publication review. They do a first read of the book. They then decide, okay, how many different agencies have a stake in this? And then they'll send the portions off to those agencies. And so a big portion of this obviously goes to Naval Special Warfare Command. Some of it may go to the CIA. Some of it, for his portion of it, will definitely go to NCIS because of the content of this third book. There's nothing classified in there. There's nothing that NCIS has to be concerned about. And the government is not allowed to edit your book in any way, or the only two things that they're allowed to object to is classified material and a misstatement of government policy. Those are the only two things that they're supposed to remove. But the way that they do this, where they farm it out to all the different agencies, and I don't want to defend them on this and say that they're not holding it up, because I think that they probably are. But the reality is, when you send it over to Naval Special Warfare Command, there's just so many SEALs writing books that they have a backlog there. I mean, it's just a fact.
That actually doesn't surprise me.
You can publish a Green Beret book a lot faster than a SEAL book.
Does anybody read those, though?
Well, they're not as interesting.
I'm just kidding. I know there's at least one person out there.
You can publish.
I'm just fucking around.
You can publish a surface warfare book really fast. So there is that. Yeah, I do think that there's probably some element of dragging their feet. And once you get it back, they'll have a whole bunch of stuff blacked out, and some of it's silly. Like some of it, it's like if anytime, for a book like his, anytime you see a number somewhere between 5 and 7, that'll be, a little black box. Green team is something that'll be blacked out. Things that are, certainly public domain, that they'll still black out. Eddie's book. When Eddie Gallagher submitted his book, they tried to redact out portions of it because they were embarrassed about the name of the Iraqi unit that his unit had been assigned to, and they tried to say that was classified. And I went back to them. I said, how is that possibly classified? Well, that's what they said. So yeah, here's the transcript where the prosecutor said the name of that unit 7 times in his opening statement in front of a courtroom full of media. So if that's classified, you need to prosecute the prosecutor. Oh, okay, you can put that in the book. So there is still a negotiation process at that stage. But yeah, it does take a long time. And it takes even longer when, somebody doesn't want this book to come out. And that really goes back to the original problem that Matt had, is his publisher wanted his book out before the election. That's why the publisher gave him a lawyer who said, I can help you do this so it gets out before the election. Because if he had done it the right way, if he had been advised by a different lawyer who said, this is what you legally have to do, the book would have been published after the election. It would have been published after the movie. It would have been published after the other, the Mark Bowden book. He wouldn't have had any problems. He would have been able to keep 100% of the revenue, but it would have been timed the way that the administration had wanted it to be timed.
Makes sense. Unfortunately. Do you think Matt has anything to worry about with the new book?
No, not at all. No, and with the second book, with the third book, he's got nothing to worry about there because he's following the process. He's not doing what the original lawyer said. And so as long as you follow the process, you have nothing to worry about.
Is there any time limit, or can this just drag on for years and years?
At a certain point, if it is clear that the government is dragging its feet, you can file a lawsuit at that point.
How can you know? What amount of time will go with Matt's book before his attorney advises him to fucking file a lawsuit?
It's no specific timeline. Like there's no specific deadline, but if it's sitting there for 12 months and it hasn't been acted on and he decides to file a lawsuit, here's what's going to happen. He'll file a lawsuit. DOJ will get it. DOJ is the agency that defends every other government entity. They will all of a sudden spit out the fully reviewed book before their deadline to respond to the lawsuit comes.
How did I know you were going to say that?
And then they're going to put in a response saying, "We don't know what he's talking about, Judge. We've complied with our obligations, so therefore we move to dismiss the lawsuit."
So why couldn't he just file one right now?
It's still a little bit early.
Could you just file the lawsuit with the review? By the way, if this isn't done next week, I'm going to sue your ass.
It's difficult because again, the timelines for seal books are so much longer just based on the volume. Now, it would be worthwhile potentially, because I don't think that they publish these numbers, it would be worthwhile potentially to file a FOIA to find out what is the average length of reviews. And then once you can, through the Freedom of Information Act, get what the timeline statistics are on, books in general, seal books, Green Beret books, compare those. And then once you have that timeline, you can see, okay, if it takes an average of, 2 months for a Green Beret book, 6 months for a seal book, and 8 months for a Matt Bissonnette book, now you know that they're delaying you.
Gotcha.
But ultimately, the people that are administering this are career GS civilians. This process is not something that any of the political appointees, really, have that much visibility on, because it's something that's kind of it's administratively handled at that lower level, which is of course where all of the the deep state lives. And so it's the kind of thing that once you kind of bring light to it, then maybe people up above say, okay, maybe we need to fix this process.
And I'm just so fucking tired of people fucking with these guys just for telling their story.
Yeah. I'd have to go back and look. I think it took Eddie about 7 or 8 months to get his book reviewed. And everything in his book was stuff that had happened in an open courtroom. We thought, this book will take 2 weeks to review. All you have to do is read it through real quick and see that he's not talking about any operations. Everything happened in an open courtroom, so yeah. But no, it still took a very long time.
Man, this shit is pissing me off. Matt just said it. Me and you have talked, especially with the Chris Fetta stuff.
Yeah.
Like, that really fucking pissed me off.
Yeah.
And, we had discussions that I said, this is a reason why these guys are fucking killing themselves.
Correct.
Because they're not allowed to share their story. And if they do, they get ostracized by either the leaders at the command or the operators at that command. And when that happened to Chris, I just want to clarify because I was pissed and I don't think I said it properly. But the first thing was, oh, the CIA's pissed because they don't want that getting out. Then it was some of the operators over at Dev Group. Then we knew exactly who it was.
Right.
And, it's always these fucking people who are lurking in the shadows, who never want to be revealed.
Right.
We found out who that was. And it was, if there is any defamation, any fucking non-truths, and whatever's going to come out about Chris, I am going to fucking sue your ass for defamation.
Right.
And then magically, we never heard another fucking word about it.
Correct.
I'm just sick of this shit. And then we get fucking Walt Allman coming on about Pete Scobell talking about some shit that happened 15 fucking years ago about equipment that they don't even use anymore.
It's another thing that I've seen where people that leave before they retire, when I left the first time, I left as an 03. And I see a lot of veterans that leave and they kind of mentally freeze at that rank. And so what happened with Pete is very consistent with what I've seen with other people, where they'll have a high-ranking officer reach out to a veteran of a certain rank and treat them the same as if they were still a lieutenant or a junior enlisted guy, and use that positional authority over them. And some veterans, they still fall into that. I mean, that's one of my beliefs when it comes to our friend the one-eyed congressman, is that when
Crenshaw,
right? Because when Warcom wants him to do something like stay out of the Eddie Gallagher case, they'll send a flag officer to talk to him and tell him, "Hey, Lieutenant Commander, this is what it is," and he just nods and salutes and says, "Oh yes, sir. A video of him committing murder, yes, sir. I won't support him, sir." I mean, that's my belief, is that just seeing how he blindly parrots whatever the senior leaders want him to. Yeah, I think that they take advantage of that. I think there was an element of that, of, hey, if we call up, Lieutenant Scobell and just, tell him, hey, you need to do this.
Harass him? You
Right.
mean fucking harass him?
Yeah. There are certain things.
I want to get somebody to.
I know. There are certain things
Just like
that
they're trying to make an example out of these guys, I want to find one of these fuckers and make an example out of him.
there are things that we don't want people to say. There are obviously classification issues. We don't want people going out and revealing, secret missions and things like that.
I get that. But you know what? We're talking about people aren't even clearing fucking rooms anymore. They have drones for this shit
Correct.
now. We're talking to fucking dinosaurs in here.
Right.
This is no different than me talking to Don Graves about Iwo Jima.
Right.
Like, good job. You cleared a fucking house. We don't do that shit anymore. We have robots that do this for us.
Mm-hmm.
But let's still attack them, for shit that we don't even, let's still attack them for fucking giving up tactics that we don't even fucking do. We don't even have humans on the fucking battlefield barely anymore. Give me a break, man.
Yeah.
Like, fuck off.
And part of the problem is that the people that are trying to hurt these guys are ones that they don't really fully understand the rules themselves.
Yeah, because they've never been on the fucking battlefield.
No, there's that too. They don't understand, they may not fully understand what the law is on these things, what the regulations actually say that people can and can't say. When, for example, while you have to get review to talk about operational stuff, any military member can go out there and talk about their personal experiences. And so the morning after the verdict in the Eddie Gallagher trial, Eddie went on Fox and Friends and did his first ever media interview. I was with him, and it was Pete Hegseth that did the interview. And he talked about his personal experiences of going through this trial, all of which happened in a room that was full of media. And wouldn't you know it, within an hour,